Whoa! Yeah!
Hey YouTubes, in today's episode I want to talk to you about solid axle swapped vehicle bump stops. So if you look around anywhere, you'll see that a majority of the solid axle swapped vehicle, the bump stop is really crude. All it has is a piece of metal going from the upper frame down to the lower frame, and it stops about 3/4 of the way. And then on the bottom, there's like this little piece of rubber there. And so what that amounts to is when the suspension articulate and those two ends meet, it creates a jarring effect. It's as if something is gonna break, and it gives the driver the sense of not being able to drive their vehicle to the potential. So in this episode, I want to talk a little bit about that. I've done a lot of research into this. There are many types of bump stop that you can utilize. For example, there are hydraulic bump stops, which may cost a little bit more, and then it doesn't come with any mounting hardware. If it does, you're going to have to fabricate a bracket to mount it onto the frame for it to function properly. And I looked into the Sumo spring bump stop, which I thought makes sense to me. So that's what I want to talk about today is the Sumo spring bump stop. Basically, I did my own research on it. What I found is that the Sumo spring bump stop is a foam-ish unit that when placed between the bump stop, it cushions your ride. It makes it feel like you're riding a Cadillac, at least to me on my rig. And it does not, it totally eliminate that jarring ride that a person who does not have that type of bump stop have. So to me, it makes me want to ride or want to daily drive my vehicle. And also when I go off-roading, it doesn't discourage me from driving my truck to its full potential. So I realized that there are many types of bump stops out there. There are the hydraulic type, which requires somebody to fabricate a bracket and then mount it on the frame so that when there is a suspension articulation going upward, it will stop the suspension from hitting the frame. So that is one type. And then here I have a Sumo spring that I am installing onto my rig. The Sumo spring itself actually comes from a Ford F-150. And so that actually works very well for me because I can fabricate my base plate to be installed and to complement the height of the Sumo spring. So that's what I'm doing here, guys. It's an easy upgrade. To me, it's an easy upgrade to having this type of bump stop rather than the solid metal with the rubber bump stop on the bottom. This makes for a very, very comfortable ride. The reason is because as the suspension articulates and comes in contact with the frame, the Sumo spring actually cushions it like a foam. And so there's no jarring ride. And I'll be honest with you, without this little Sumo spring here, my off-road trip that I had recently taken would have been a disaster. I would not been able to go on those trails the way I did. So here is the end product. As you can see, it's a very, very simple device. It does not have any moving parts, and all it does is it waits there for a sudden impact and to absorb. And so this is how it looks like. So here we are doing a log crossing. Normally, if I were to be in my old setup, here it'll be a thud, and it'll feel like something's gonna break. We're not out long enough. So here you see an uneven trail. You can see the oscillation of my suspension going up and down. In the old setup, I would hear my bump stop bottom, and it makes for a scary ride. But here you don't hear anything because the Sumo spring is absorbing everything. So here I'm going down a little crevice, and you can see here I'm going to be going down. In the old setup, as soon as I go down and hit the bottom, I would hear a thump. But here I'm not hearing anything because the Sumo springs are doing exactly what they're designing to do. And it just makes for an awesome, comfortable ride. Again, here is another log approach. You can see it's smooth sailing. No bottoming out. So here in this terrain right here, you can see that it's not even. You can see my truck going up and down. Suspension is oscillating, and there's no bump. There's no thud. The bump stop is working as they should, and the Sumo springs are just absorbing all the shocks. And I'm not feeling anything. Literally, this feels like you're driving a old G Cadillac, and it feels really nice. So here is the outside view of the same log we just crossed. As you can see, there's no bottoming here. So you can see in the old setup, if I were to do any of this suspension articulation in a terrain like this, I would hear thud, 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 and then thud, thud, thud. But because of the new setup, this makes for a very cushy ride. It's like riding a Cadillac.
Yeah.
So I will leave you with this scene. As you can see,
Whoa!
it rides like a
Yeah.
Cadillac. No bottoming here.